Trump thinks that it's part of a plot like Russiagate against him. I don't think that's true. I think we need disclosure about a lot of things, beginning with Epstein. Because who's going to trust the government at this point? B, I want to know who murdered him in federal lockup in Manhattan. He was murdered. He did not kill himself. I hate cover-ups. I think, as I noted before, the deep state is 100% real. The Epstein story intersects with that in really profound ways.
Tucker Carlson just shared his thoughts on Trump and the Epstein scandal. Why there's been no transparency delivered in this case, what's the most plausible explanation for that, and where does he agree with Trump on this, and where does he disagree with Trump on this? This one's going to be interesting. Let's catch it. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
It's no secret that today Donald Trump is facing approval ratings that are at a record low. And I'm curious on your thoughts on how the Republican Party is going to grow after Donald Trump.
I mean, it's a great question. Of course, I don't know the answer. It's the real answer. But I think that a party that sticks to, I mean, look, the whole appeal of Trump was that he was he was totally against the Republican Party as constituted, which was like disgusting and corrupt and existing only for its own benefit and not actually serving its voters, lying to its voters, particularly its pro-life voters. I'm one of them, so I notice this. No, we're going to end abortion. No, you're not. You're for abortion. Like, they're liars. And Trump knew that. And they're running around telling us that the war on terror was a good thing. How was it a good thing exactly? We got TSA? Like, shut up. And Trump shows up in 2016 and just calls BS on the whole party. He ran against the Republican Party. And that was really popular. And he got, especially the second time, and he got all kinds of people who would never vote for a Republican voted for Trump. I mean, it's in the numbers.
I think this is a really fair statement, actually. Trump really was seen as an outsider despite being, at the top of elite real estate mogul circles in New York City, running against the Republican Party almost as if he was a political independent. He stood up there on stage in South Carolina, looked Jeb Bush in the face and said, "This Iraq war was deplorable. How can you defend it?" No one can defend it. Iraq didn't have weapons of mass destruction. This was a major moment that made it acceptable to oppose the neocon agenda if you were latched onto Trump. He did that. He also ended the legacy of the Clinton dynasty in some ways, in addition to Bush. At the same time, he hasn't delivered on a lot of those promises. But this is fair to say about Trump's political rise. I think it's accurate.
And so my view has been that part of it is Trump's amazing personality, magnetic personality, hilariousness, wildness, ability to draw attention. That's part of it. But part of it was the ideas, the 5 pillars of MAGA that I said, which are like broadly popular. You're not going to find many people who are like, no, we should have open borders, or no, like, let's outsource all of our jobs to Bangladesh, or you know what I mean? Like, most people think that's normal, those ideas. So, if the party runs on those, I think it can be a dominant party. But the party doesn't want to. They hate those ideas.
I would say, if I were to be a single issue voter on anything,
yep,
it would currently be the Epstein files and everything that's going on. I'm curious.
I get it, dude.
As the other guy in the glasses was talking previously about your comments about Trump, I'm just curious, how do you see Trump gathering this huge populace and moving forward when he has these huge allegations against him, where in many people's eyes, they believe it to be true?
Well, it's not even only the allegations possibly connected to Epstein, it's the cover-up. So even if you don't believe that Trump was involved in Epstein's criminal activities, which, might be a fair judgment, haven't seen evidence that he truly was, I'm not against it. I'd be open to discussing that. I'd love to talk about that, not only in relation to him, but Clinton and, Gates, and more about Ehud Barak and others. We got some of that from Virginia Gouffre's book that came out this week. But the cover-up itself is criminal. The fact that we were supposed to get transparency here and haven't. So let's see what Tucker says.
I don't know. I look at it a little differently. I'm very upset about it, so I think I agree with you there. I've never thought it was really about Trump. I don't know that anyone's put forth credible allegations about his personal behavior. Maybe I missed it, but Ghislaine Mack, whatever. We can get into the, I know actually a lot about the case. What I'm really bothered by is, I think, It's both inherently important. I think there were a lot of people involved in this whose names you know, who have a great deal of power in American society and internationally, including a former prime minister of another country who's been accused of rape, credibly.
Yeah, he's talking about Ehud Barak, by the way, and not only was he the former prime minister of Israel, he was also head of IDF intelligence. And that's one of the key connections that Epstein had to Israeli intelligence, and it didn't stop there. He was also kind of the protege of Israel's most famous spy ever, Robert Maxwell, but I digress.
Bill Gates, I mean, there's a lot of people, right? And I think it's fair to know what your leaders are doing. And I don't think there should be, I hate cover-ups. I think, as I noted before, the deep state is 100% real. The Epstein story intersects with that in really profound ways. And if you don't tell the truth about it, most people, probably you, reach the conclusion like the system is so rigged, no one will ever tell me the truth about anything.
I think that's exactly accurate because it's so emblematic of themes that Trump ran on outside of the Epstein, story and Epstein divulgence in particular. Because remember, his mantra was drain the swamp. Well, what's more indicative of the swamp than a giant sex trafficking ring involving some of the most prominent people in the world, in the political world, by the way, that was likely undergone as a blackmail operation on behalf of a foreign country, likely Israel? Well, it's the Epstein story, and if you can't bring transparency to that, what would you ever be willing to bring transparency into? So I think this is right. How could you ever trust the government again? I mean, I was at that point before this, but I'm hoping that this opens more eyes to the fact that you can't trust the government, and it doesn't matter whether Republicans are entrenched in office or in Democrats or a combination of both. You just can't. It's the uniparty. They do the same things. They have the same clients, and that's the Israel lobby, the military-industrial complex, the banks, big pharma, big tech, big regulations, everything that is entrenched in Washington.
That's how I personally feel about it.
Do you believe that the Epstein files will ever get released in entirety?
I don't want to be boring about this, but I did a long, 3-hour show on this last month, which I think is, I think it's all true, what I said and what my guest said, but I don't think there are, strictly speaking, Epstein files, because, this is real, and I don't want to be boring, but the original search warrant in Palm Beach County in 2005, 6, 20 years ago, basically was written to protect Epstein. And so it was like, you can search his house, but only the third drawer from the left in his dresser, but don't look at any other drawers. So actually, the government gathered a shockingly small amount of evidence in the original case.
Yeah, he's not totally wrong about this, and they didn't even search some of Epstein's properties, his big properties at the time, including Zorro Ranch in New Mexico. Whitney Webb's talked about this a lot, but they actually seemed to tip him off to some of the searches they were going to do, leaving him time to potentially hide evidence. But at the same time, in his New York mansion that was given to him by Les Wexner, by the way, for no reason apparently, just given a $77 million house, they found a safe and binders, and in that safe were lots of digital CDs with prominent people's names printed on them. Potentially the blackmail material we're talking about. Pam Bondi once said that was hours of Epstein molesting kids, then she switched her tune to saying, hey, that was just CP, that wasn't that. But I think that's hard to excuse, and that's hard to kind of justify. How could you make that mistake in that regard? Plus, we have this. Lots of other evidence does exist, including this FBI document that shows that that Epstein was a federal informant. And he was an informant as part of his case here, where he was told that he had to provide information to the FBI as agreed upon under this plea deal, this sweetheart plea deal he got. We've never learned what information he provided the FBI. It's not something that Trump's talked about. It's not something that Pam Bondi is willing to give us. And it's not even just this. It's stuff outside of this. It's wire transfers that Ron Wyden has talked about. $1.8 billion in transfers between Epstein and, quote, people of prominence who Ron Wyden saw the evidence of. He wants Senate to subpoena that and have access to it. It's at the Treasury Department right now, but there doesn't seem to be much interest in this outside of Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, Ro Khanna, and some others. There really just doesn't, and that's the truth.
Which is insane to me. So how did that happen? I want to know that. I want to know how justice was perverted consistently along the line, okay, A. B, I want to know who murdered him in federal lockup in Manhattan. He was murdered. He did not kill himself. And I'm not guessing. I'm not like playing the meme game like Epstein didn't kill himself. Epstein actually didn't kill himself. He was murdered. But think about that for a second. Who could get into the most secure part of the federal detention center in downtown Manhattan? Who could do that? And the former Attorney General of the United States, Bill Barr, covered up his murder. And we know that for a fact because he said in his memoir, and at the time, his first instruction to his staff at DOJ when Epstein was found dead in his cell, we can't let anyone think this was a murder. Well, you haven't even done the investigation yet. So rule one in law enforcement is, and in journalism, by the way, we don't draw conclusions before the evidence arrives because we could be wrong. Also science, like any honest undertaking requires you to find out what happened before you make a judgment about it. And
yeah, that's exactly right. You know, this is true. It seemed like there was no interest in actually investigating whether this was a homicide or not, despite the fact that the timing was a little bit weird, as Epstein's cellmate seemed to be moved something like the day before he died there. And Barr didn't seem to even entertain the prospect that he could have been killed, despite the fact that people have looked at this later, including the most prominent forensic pathologist in the world, not pathologist, forensic analyst in the world probably, Michael Baden, took a look at this. 3 bones broke in his neck, including 2 bones that don't typically break when there's a hanging. It just doesn't make sense, and even Epstein's lawyers don't think it makes sense.
he didn't, and he was part of the cover-up. And he's threatened to sue me for saying that. Go ahead. So there are a lot of things about Epstein that I think are vital for the public to know. They're not revealing them. It enrages me. I think it hurts them. It hurts the country. I don't understand it. And I think Trump thinks that it's part of a plot like Russiagate against him. I don't think that's true. I think we need disclosure about a lot of things, beginning with Epstein. Because
yeah, of course it's not true. It's not a Democratic hoax. It was people like Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino that talked about how transparency was needed in this case because no one was talking about it. Almost no one on the Democratic side. And there were some exceptions. Ron Wyden's one of those. He's one of those guys that's good on transparency issues. He got Clapper to admit duplicity in the mass NSA surveillance scandal, in which Clapper lied on the stand about the existence of, what Snowden blew the cover off. But at the same time, the Democrats didn't choose this as their weapon against Trump in his first term. They chose Russiagate as the weapon that they were going to use against him, the farcical Russiagate, but it looks like this was the real scandal. And why, you might ask, why wouldn't they do that if Trump was implicated? Well, they wouldn't do that if they were implicated too, if there were pages and transcripts talking about the abuses and allegations and connections to evidence and these people of prominence where, Trump is listed on a document next to prominent Democrats too. They weren't just going to redact all the prominent Democrats around Trump and raise utter suspicion by releasing that kind of document and withholding all the ones that were damning to Democrats. I think it's most likely that they were all involved. Again, this is a uniparty. They fly in the same spaces. They inhabit the same culture. They have the same general mentality, but for slight flavor adjustments at times.
Who's going to trust the government at this point?
I mean, have you seen the birthday letter that Epstein had written to Donald Trump?
Yeah, he was friends with Epstein.
Yeah, well, I'm saying is that a majority of the American populace believes that Trump is a pedophile.
Okay, well...
Okay,
I mean, I haven't seen polling on that question, but I would say...
A good chunk at the minimum.
Okay. I can't speak for anyone other than myself, but I would say, as always, disclosure is the only way to restore trust. I mean, they haven't released all the JFK assassination files, okay? Still. Despite the fact the president issued an order on January 23rd, the day after his inauguration, saying all of them were beat, they haven't been released. So what is that? And I've got some theories, but I don't have a hard and fast answer because I haven't seen the documents that haven't been released by CIA. But it just makes everybody crazy. And you often hear this criticism of there are all these conspiracies on the internet. Well, how do you think they got there? Because they're occupying a vacuum that our leaders, using our money and our government, which we own as citizens of the United States, they're using that to hide information from us solely to protect themselves and their friends. I just think a system like that can't continue. I really don't. I just think you're priming the pump for some kind of badness if you keep doing that, and they are continuing to do it.
I agree, and I think that files also need to be released until people like me can feel more at ease with our current administration. Thanks for your time.
And every administration, I agree.
Yeah, totally agree with that. You know, this is the issue that's peeled off a lot of Trump's support on his base. His base was not having this, man. A lot of people were very upset about this, still are upset about this. We should still be talking about this and the Epstein story in general. I'm happy to do that, especially when new things come up, including Epstein's involvement in actually securing a security arrangement between the government of Israel and Mongolia. His role in that came out due to some leaked emails between Epstein and his good buddy Ehud Barak, the guy that came to his mansion in New York City, lived with him for prolonged periods, and had over 30 visits to him. That came up. And the fact that he dined with one of his prosecutors after the sweetheart deal. Breaking Point's just covered that. We covered that on this channel. But there's no transparency here. This is a cover-up. And if you ask me, Tucker isn't hard enough on Trump over it. I don't know if it's ignorance or if he just believes Trump or something like that, but there is evidence outside of what they collected in that first trial and things that are really important, including the money trail. What's more important than the money trail, the wire transfers that the government has records of at the Treasury Department, but we can't see? We can't see where the money is. Well, I'll tell you, if you follow the money, you'll find the truth of the Epstein story. And where the money led, that's going to give us answers. It's not the kind of answers that the administration wants to give us. They don't want to give us any answers. And indeed, they brought up red herrings like, hey, let's try to get the grand jury testimony from this judge that was adversarial toward us and probably won't grant it and has a history of opposition to Trump. And even if we do get it, it's going to be months later, lots of redacted documents, etc. I think a total red herring. Birthday card too. I mean, whatever. We know that Trump was very good friends with Epstein for something like a 15-year period. Seems like they broke their relationship off in 2004. Most of the allegations come up after that. And regarding Epstein, I don't think it's impossible to say that he didn't molest people earlier or, Trump could not have been involved. I don't know that. I just don't have the evidence to suggest that. Same with Clinton. We'll bring it up if we do. He ran in circles with Clinton, was closer to Clinton at certain times, but at the same time, we don't have answers. And what are people to think if Trump is acting in a way that would be kind of totally the same as if he was involved as he's acting now? It just brings about new suspicions. And how the White House has handled this case has only led people to fear the worst. The worst about this president, the worst about this administration, and the worst about the potential connections to Epstein. That's what we have because of this cover-up. But I do want to hear from you. Let me know down below. Do you agree with Tucker Carlson? Is there just not much there in Epstein? Is it a case where Trump is literally covering this up? Are both parties implicated? Is one party implicated? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Also subscribe to Tucker Carlson. Great speeches here and great discourse for sure. If you like this video, please consider becoming a YouTube member. You can do that by clicking the join button below. And if you support me that way, I'll graciously appreciate that. And in return, I'll give you access to all my videos before they go live to the general public on YouTube. Also, if you want a free digital copy of my first book, Compact of the Republic, you can click on the link in the description. I'll send that to you for free, no obligation, no cost. Just click that link below and sign up for it, and I'll get that to you. Until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.